All right, welcome back everyone to the first Filecoin Core Devs call of 2022. This is also Core Devs meeting number 34, if you're keeping track. And today we'll move through our agenda like we usually do and also have several different open discussion items at the end of this call for different implementation teams and Core Devs to weigh in on. So to get started, we'll go through our team updates. As a reminder, we sort of began moving in the end of 2021 towards sort of a more open format. So if you have more standard updates and you don't feel like you need to share, you do not have to. But I do want to open up the floor to any pain points, bugs, or any kind of topics that the implementation teams may want to discuss with the group. So if that's you, feel free to raise your hand, but no problem if not. Great. Yes, Stephen?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just want to mention to the team that the Villas team is working on the network version 15, and we announced the schedule. I could put it into the chart, put the link into the chart. Basically our schedule is it's trying to match with the Lotus schedule, so there is no any surprise about this one. And currently it's in progress, and we didn't see any risks right now. Just about this update, and some others is as we're working on the Villas market phase 2. We want to release the first version about Villas market phase 2, which is deployment on the cloud could support multiple service providers. I think that's all about the Villas progress I want to mention to the team.
Great, thank you, Stephen. I also saw that in the Venus team Slack channel, there was like a great update announcement with the scheduling for the next release. So I'll add that to the meeting notes also if anyone wants to review it. Ayush, do you have something?
Yeah, sorry, I was. Are we talking about snap deals a bit more later, or are we jumping into that stuff now? Because there are a couple of relevant updates regarding network V15.
Yeah, because we just have a bunch of sort of discussion topics today. It seems to make sense if you want to do it now.
Okay, sounds good. Just to just kind of a follow up on Stephen's thing, we cut the actors release candidate for the V15 upgrade on Monday, I think. So that we're hoping that'll be the final code that that gets shipped on mainnet. So anyone who consumes specs actors can use that. Anyone who's re-implementing specs actors, so the Forest team, can use that as your blueprint for what the code will look like. Any consensus critical changes that go in at this point will be because we messed up and have a bug that we need to fix. So we're hoping this will be the final product. Lots of testing that will be happening. And Lotus is starting its release testing process for the upgrades, the releases that we will be shipping for the upgrade. I think our first release candidate came out yesterday.
Sounds great. And as a note, Jennifer also mentioned before we started recording this call that there are different Slack channels that have been set up for different phases of the Lotus testing process. And I'll also add those to the meeting notes. So if you'd like to join those, it may be advisable just so you can keep tabs on how testing is going and what kind of open needs emerge. Right. And I'll also drop a link as well to the confirmed details for the OSNAP upgrade. So Jennifer kindly put together an outline of which FIPS are likely going to be incorporated, as well as details about each of the upgrade epochs. Do note we were originally considering 3 FIPS to go through. However, one of them has been removed from this implementation, this upgrade cycle. That's going to be FIP 27, which has to do with the label type label switch type. Sorry, the exact name is escaping me right now, but again, We added updated notes on Slack as well, and we'll include that in the meeting notes. Great. Any other last updates or items that any of the implementation teams want to raise?
Maybe just 2 sentences around trusted setup, Caitlin.
Sure.
So we started this Monday. First, we are kind of doing all the runs in with participants in China mainland. Everything is looking good so far. We uploaded the first 2 or 3 contributors, and we are looking to do that until the 26th of January. I created like a discussion if somebody wants to discuss it more, but this is the current outlook, and everything looks good so far. Also part of V15, that's why I think it's important to mention. Cool.
Great. Thanks so much, Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other last questions about the trusted setup process, snap deals, the V15 upgrade sequence, or any other last items? All right. So it looks like Dudley is not able to join us today, and there shouldn't be any need to know security updates from the foundation either. On my end, again, we're just working on these 2 FIPs. So it's going to be changes to verified client status in the Filecoin Plus program, as well as snap deals, as you all are very well aware. We have a set agenda, or sorry, an upgrade timeline as well. So thanks everyone for contributing. I know there was some back and forth here. And I guess other than that, just some like housekeeping, now that it's a new year and we still have our core devs meetings, if there's any changes to the formats of these that you'd like, if you don't like this more open-ended style, it seems to be pretty time efficient, but if you like having everyone sort of get to share updates through the week, we can go back to that format. Feel free to just let me know. And another thing to consider is Alex North, who has returned from paternity leave and has pushed forward a couple of snap proposals and discussion items. He reached out and messaged me and asked if we would potentially consider doing 2 separate core devs calls, both on Thursdays, but at different times, since he's based in Australia and it's quite difficult for him to join with the time zone. I also suspect that might be the case for some of you if you're in China or other parts of East Asia. The Filecoin Plus governance team does host 2 consecutive calls to address for this issue, and it works relatively well for them. I have some concerns about us fragmenting up who joins which call and perhaps not having one single team that can come together to hear each other's issues and share potential solutions. But if you have opinions about this, if you are tired of joining this call at midnight and would also really like us to host 2 meetings, it's definitely something we can do. So think about it and let me know.
Just like a quick question, like instead of having like 2 meetings for like all the core dev calls, is it possible for us to consider maybe like rotating the time? So like if this week is in like a US friendly time zone, for the next one we have like more like a 12 hours later time zone sort of things.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion too. We'll have to make sure everyone can keep track of what time the meeting is going to be. And I think that may just fall to me pinging people more on Slack, which is fine. But again, yeah, good suggestion. We don't want people to consistently have to join at a really inopportune time.
Yeah, I think 2 meetings could work, with the caveat that you were kind of alluding to. If there definitely needs to be some good connection between folks, it's some async summary of what was discussed in both in all meetings for folks who didn't join, who couldn't join live. So long as we can get that and make sure that information doesn't get dropped along the way, so someone doesn't know when the next network upgrade is because they were in the different time zone meeting, that'll be, I think, the important part. But otherwise, I think it's a good idea. God, I can imagine that folks joining from East Asia and Australia don't enjoy this.
Yeah, I was complaining to Tabitha that this meeting is at 8 a.m. for me, but that's far better than for many of you. So okay, great. So I'll put together little proposals to what that might look like so that you guys can think about it more. And if we want to implement this change, like anything else, we can also sort of test drive it. And if we don't like it, we can go back to what we're doing currently. So great. Cool. So if there's nothing else, certainly not from my end, I think we can kind of segue into those open conversation topics. The first one being a conversation around the V16 network upgrade, as well as the coming FVM FIPS. So there are 2 FIPS that we expect to land. This is the same guidance that Raul shared with us in 2021. Raul, thank you so much for joining us despite your very busy schedule. You did give us a nice async update on our agenda, but would you like to sort of provide an overview or any new details you think is important to share?
Yeah, sure. Basically, the update is that, hi everybody, happy New Year. By the way, yeah, the update is basically that there are 2 FIPS incoming. First one is going to be around the introduction of the FEM itself. Second FIP is going to be around the changes to the gas accounting model to account for user programmable contracts in the future. The first one is a FIP that we can basically write as soon as the FEM is integrated into Lotus, and we've integrated and we've kind of like validated the full approach end to end, and we've stabilized the reference implementation itself. We expect to submit this FIP or at least an initial draft, or kind of like something that is good enough to like be considered by this group and the community at large by the end of this month. Towards the end of this month, we also expect to begin collecting data from the Canary experiment, which will then feed into the concrete changes that we propose for the gas accounting and for the iteration on the gas model. So that FIP is gonna come likely sometime in February. Or at least like there's probably going to be preceded by discussion rather than kind of like just a FIP delivered to the community for consideration. So that's where we're standing right now. In terms of the upgrade parts and the implementation kind of like effort, something that I also laid out in this particular comment on the TPM issue for this call is that there is going to be a change in dynamics in terms of like the implementation cost that implementers are going to have to face for implementing these FIPS if they're using the reference FEM implementation, which is what we expect that all implementers are going to be doing. So really by the moment that we submit the first FIP, which is the implementation of the FEM, it will have already been integrated into Lotus, right? So we don't expect a implementation phase after the FIP itself. Similarly, the FEM is largely like the FEM is based off of Forest's initial VM and is written in Rust, so the integration with Forest should be pretty simple as well. The integration with Venus, we expect that most of the patch that goes into Lotus would be reusable for Venus. And when it comes to Fuhon, like the FFI, there will need some FFI bindings there, but Rust and C, the interoperability between those languages is way smoother than the one between Go and Rust. So we expect like very little like work and effort there. And basically what this means is that implementations will have support during some time for 2 VMs, and they will atomically switch to the FVM when the upgrade epoch kicks in. So this is going to be the way that we design that upgrade. So during some time, those code bases will actually there will be 2 VMs coexisting in that code base in each of the code bases, and eventually in the future we like the intention here is for implementations to be able to choose if they want to support historical VMs going forward. We in Lotus, the idea here is that because when this upgrade epoch kicks in, it is theoretically possible for the next version of the client implementation to just erase the old VM if we just want to support the ongoing network, right? However, it is likely that implementations will want to support previous or like have a mode where they support historical VM executions. So this is the case for Lotus, and we're planning to kind of like one idea to have the support is by using build compile flag. So having the ability to compile Lotus with historical support or without historical support. That's kind of like one thought there. And so yeah, so kind of like the change in dynamics in the way that we implement FIPS that have to do with the FEM going forward is basically that there's going to be less work on the implementation side of things. So we think we need to factor in for less time when it comes to like the full end-to-end process until up until the FIP goes live. And also the gas accounting changes themselves, if they're approved, then they will be implemented in the FEM. So there's like literally we don't expect any work besides maybe like some UX stuff or like some DX stuff that needs to be done on clients themselves to actually support this FIP, as long as they're using the reference implementation of the FEM, which as I stated before, we expect that will be the case. Any questions, thoughts, discussion points that you want to raise up?
Out of like sorry, you still want to go first? Out of like my personal like curiosity, because like as you mentioned multiple times, like the team has been working on is like just like a reference implementation of FEM, just like, you know, how Lotus was sort of like the reference implementation of Filecoin, like for, in the very beginning. So we have different like implementations. Like I'm just like curious, would you expect, just like for example, like Venus, like have their own version of like FEM, or like do you expect, like what's your thoughts on that?
I know. Yeah, I know what you had with the question, which is, do we like expect actual, you know, alternative FEM implementations to emerge? And the answer here is that the FEM is is an embedded component, right? It doesn't expose a user interface, so to speak, like, you know, a node would. Therefore, like, you know, Venus is, for example, specialized in certain use cases that Lotus isn't, or like that's the direction where Venus is headed, right? So like this is because like it supports different use cases. The FEM is like a very constrained and kind of like tightly bounded component. So I do expect implementations, alternative implementations to emerge, but potentially because somebody like feels radically different about how the implementation should be, and like potentially there is like disagreement, but like at one point which like, you know, warrants maybe forking a code base or like starting a new code base, and this is good because diversity is good, right? But like when it comes to, you know, a practical reason, so to speak, it's hard because like the FEM currently, the implementation is tied to WASM time. Like out of, you know, all programming languages, Rust is the best fit for WASM runtimes, really. So like it is hard to like imagine an FEM implementation being built in a different language. And when it comes to like the actual WASM runtime, which we're using WASM time at this point, it is possible to introduce different runtimes in the reference implementation of the FEM itself. And this is something that's in the roadmap. So like, I don't think that would be motivation enough to start another implementation, but I think it's going to be potential for intellectual curiosity or intellectual, you know,
intellectual arrogance. Someone will come along and look at your code and be like, "This is garbage. I can write this better." And that's when you get the other.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, because like I just want to like put it out there. It's like if you don't plan to implement it in a different, like totally different approach, like if it's gonna be an open source, like again, like repository, also like we welcome like all contributors, just contribute to the repository directly and giving ideas. So like I just want to play it out there. It's like it's not just like for Lotus, you know, like in a way of
yeah, exactly. So that's basically the case.
Yeah, one flag in terms of timeline, I think, broadly agree that integrating the FVM into the various implementations shouldn't be all that complicated. Having said that, it's a little bit of the sooner folks can get started on that, the better, because some refactoring, some re-architecturing will be needed, I'm sure, in all of the implementations, even Forest. So we should definitely factor in that time. Obviously, Lotus is kind of getting a head start in order to validate the FVM itself, but the sooner everyone can start kind of trying to see what that would look like and do any pre-factoring that's needed, I think that'll make sure that everyone can move along in a timely fashion.
Totally.
And for like
one thing, sorry, Jennifer, just one thing. We're planning to open source the repo really soon. We're right now doing cleanups. We've got, I think, with 2 PR submitted overnight, we've got 100% of actors V6 test vectors passing now. So that's a really good news. So we're planning to open source soon. We're doing cleanups, adding to-dos, making sure that where that there's issues in there, so that if people want to, like, as soon as we open source, people want to jump in and help, there are issues tagged with help wanted, and kind of like, to provide good community experience here. What I can do in the meantime is give the implementers group access already to the repo before we actually make it full on public. So if that is something that would help, the Forest team already has access, because much of the code was based from them, and we needed to coordinate on actor fixes as well. But I can give the folks on Venus and Fuhan access right now, and like probably just ahead of the public, making it public itself.
Yeah, I think which is good to make it public, and we as the Venus team, we will assign 1 or 2 resources on this. This is very important for us to integrate or make some change to and adopt this.
So I'll get this done today. Just be aware that you're going to find a bunch of to-dos and things in there. So don't judge us by it. It's been very fast-paced project here. So yeah.
Yeah, that is okay. Once you think is ready, we'd love to dive in and to see what we could contribute and how to.
Cool. Stephen, I'll ping you and Maxim separately to get the list of people you want me to give access to today.
Okay, sure.
So
I have a quick timeline question for you, Raul. Does your development schedule have an ideal general date by which you expect the FVM to be live on the network?
Yeah, so we've been targeting, so this would be the M1 milestone, and we've been targeting the end of March. So that would be the end of Q1, 2022. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So Raul, like I know you have been thinking about like the whole testing rolling out plan a lot. Like I would love to, after like you wrap up all these like annoying implementation details, like maybe at the end of January, I would love to sync with you as soon as possible. It's like which testnet are we using, like how do we do, like do we, like I would love it to be run on calibration at least for like a month, at least 4 months before like the mainnet upgrade. But at the same time is kind of tricky because we have the Snapdeal testing ongoing as well. So like I feel like a lot of like coordination and planning needs to be done there, and also like kind of like quote unquote like recruiting the community members who can actually join in this test effort. I would love to get started as soon as possible. So like once when you have time, let's have a sync.
Sure, let's do that. So I think the main thing that we need to think about, and if people also have like thoughts here with regards to testnets, is besides kind of like looking out for the testnet is not getting broken, right? And it's just like the chain is proceeding and like the network is healthy and everything. We do need to like figure out the exact metrics that if we're that we wanna instrument nodes with as well for a testnet, so that the testnet can be as helpful as possible to make sure that that what we're introducing is gonna keep a healthy network going.
And Jennifer just asked in the chat as well, curious about where the Rust actor will live.
It's actually a question from, oh my God, I don't know how to pronounce that. Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so so the idea is to extract the actors, the built-in actors, to a separate repo, which is also a meeting place for all implementers right now. So this would be a common good repo for the Filecoin ecosystem. We're thinking tentatively of using the name Filecoin project /actor-rs, because it's Rust actors, right? And it just like fits in really well. So yeah, that's where it would that's just a proposal, but like it's probably Probably by February would be when like we consider extracting the actors.
Great. Any other questions for Raul? All right. Well, thank you so much for coming, Raul. Again, we know how tight your timeline or your schedule is. Sorry, timeline too, I guess. And we do appreciate it. So we'll keep all of this in the notes as well for anyone who may not be here today, and we can kind of asynchronously connect on any other additional questions that come up. But looking forward to knowing a little bit more when you begin to work through that testnet process. Cool. Thank you.
One related Q I have is like, do we expect this like, V7 Go actor to be the last Go actor we have? And I think it's like important for us like to stay out like in public in that way, because like a lot of FIP is being proposed and people are doing a lot of prototyping. I think they're wondering if they should, continue with the Go actor path, or they should like start thinking about like a Rust actor path.
Yeah, that's a good point. The trade-off here is obviously we don't want to stop. Like the FVM is still ultimately experimental, and we don't want to tell people stop working on Go actors because we're definitely doing all of this. Having said that, certainly the expectation, at least from my point of view, is yes, this V7 actors will be the last time we ship Go actors. So maybe the decision that we need here is at what point we feel comfortable enough making that. So internally, it's like as the folks working on specs actors right now, that's my expectation. At some point, we should have enough confidence in the FVM to communicate that externally, saying, and maybe it's when the specs actor-rs is opened, and then folks can start using that as their reference point to open PRs and so on. At the end of the day, we already do have an implementation of Rust actors that is used, so we can certainly start encouraging people to prototype things based off of that, because we expect that to be the direction that the Filecoin project is going in.
Great. Anything else? All right. Then switching gears a little bit, but on the thread related to the FVM, Alex did ask that we discuss if anyone has any items they'd like to bring up, potential changes or directions for storage markets in the future, especially post FVM implementation. He had posted in the discussion forum sort of an interesting post with a high level proposal of what he thinks that might look like. And you can see it here. I think it's fair to just say storage market decoupling for now. I know this is a big topic. If anyone has a thread in this area that they'd like to run with or propose for the group, happy to discuss it. Otherwise, I did want to flag this discussion item for you all, and you could check offline, review what's been written already, see if you have any thoughts or proposals to add, and then we can continue to discuss this in future meetings as well.
Yeah, that's a big open question that I haven't really been engaging with that discussion. And looking at it now, it kind of looks like Alex has just been having a conversation with himself, which is a little too bad. But
there's more activity in a different discussion. We probably should consider like merging a little bit. So like the first like official like FIP draft is created, and the discussion to address that like official proposal is like in the discussion 265, and there's a lot of momentum there. So like.
Yeah, I think there's also some uncertainty about the exact scope of what's being proposed in the Phil Plus subsidy post that Alex made and the FIP draft that he pushed. So we're going to try and get him to come to an upcoming core devs call so that he can walk through it in greater detail, which is also what necessitated us asking about the time zone challenges in seas in Australia.
Yeah, I think this is this is a very big thing for these big actors change. So yeah, this is also related to the discussion we just had about well this should put into the Golang implementation or these Rust ones. We need to make that discuss. Yeah, this will make this a little bit complicated actually. If we put this into the Golang implementation, and later on, there will be a very big change in Rust too.
Yeah, and as Jennifer pointed out, there's now 3 separate discussions happening about this one very big proposal. So I'll also reach out to Alex and see if we can condense some of these. It's important that people can focus on specific elements that may be complex or have some downstream impacts, but we also want to make sure it's easy to find where information lives. So we'll keep you posted. All right. Any last minute walk-on items, comments, questions, or anything else for this week?
Yes. Is there any other FIP that folks are considering implementing network v16? And shall we start brainstorming what the network codename is going to be? The one I have. Oh, sorry, Ayush.
Oh, I was just, it was not helpful. I've not even looked at the backlog, so I'm very focused on V15 right now. I haven't started to think about what besides FVM we might want in V16. But it's a good question to ask.
Yeah. If it's more helpful, we can, in our call in 2 weeks, I can bring a whole slate of proposals that seem like they may be ready to sort of move into sort of final FIP status. Sorry, in terms of completeness, not in terms of like where they are in the network, that we can all go through as a group and see if anyone has any priorities.
Sounds good. The one caught my eye so far is the one Stephen opened, like the beneficiary address for miners. But like with all this FVM conversation has been going on, I don't know like how Stephen feels about like moving this forward like in March.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I really want to have this being implemented in the version 16. And I have the team is already working on the implementation. We will create another branch of this big specs actors. And of course, it's about the Golang implementation. So I would think that we will have reference of the implementation maybe in a few weeks for review.
And sorry, Stephen, I'm forgetting. Did you previously present the beneficiary address proposal to the group? I'm remembering you presented the small miner pooling proposal, which is separate.
No, I didn't, I think, but I think, many people already reviewed the discussion. If it's okay, I can present this actually in this meeting. It's okay.
Sorry, did you say at this meeting?
No, next one.
Oh, the next one. Sure, I was going to say this very quick. Yeah, the next one will be perfect. We'll add you to the agenda. All right. Anything else?
One question.
Mm-hmm.
Question around the public roadmap. We announced that the submission is kind of over. What would be the follow-up steps, and where do we discuss the ideas that were presented there?
Yeah, great question. So we extended the sort of submission timeline through the very beginning of this week. So it closed. I'm now painstakingly gathering all of the information that was submitted. There were lots and lots of submissions. Not all of them are projects that we would consider within scope for what this project is supposed to be. However, we're going to try and find a way to like sort through these so that we can still show, we're working on 20 wallets and blah, 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 and lots of different sort of additional usability and features that will also be added on top of the network. But the idea here is that by the end of this week, that data will be preliminarily parsed. I'll share it if anyone wants to take a look and provide feedback. Let me know if they think there's anything that is perhaps missing. And beginning next week, I will be organizing it into a visual roadmap that we can share more broadly. We don't have a strict timeline on this, but in the next week and a half, we should have at least a draft early product, and actually sharing it with the broader community depends on how much feedback we get in this sort of drafting and finalization process.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Seems like a good plan. Thank you.
Sure. And if actually this is an open product, so you can see all of the submissions on GitHub. If you'd like, I'd be happy to bring the draft to the next core devs call. Just again, to due diligence on making sure that every project that is ongoing is adequately accounted for.
Yep. Sounds like a good idea.
All right.
Thank
Cool.
you.
All right. So I think with that, we are at the end of our meeting. Again, please interrupt me right now if you have any last items, comments, whatever it may be.
Just one thought about this format. I do think it's a better use of time, the kind of more open share any updates thing. And so I quite like it. One flag that I'd be careful that we don't start taking our updates async into the Zoom chat, just because that's completely opaque to anyone viewing this recording afterwards. So if you have anything that you think is interesting enough to share in the Zoom chat, unmute and give your verbal update in 15 seconds or whatever, just for people viewing after.
So I would love to share that. Like I learned how to pronounce Guillaume's name, which is like super important. Like, just kidding. Sorry for anyone that's watching the recording. That's what's going on in Zoom chat for the past 5 minutes.
And now we've given you an opportunity to practice out loud. So it seems like you're doing well.
Oh God, I did it wrong. Damn.
All right, so another standing topic for Jennifer in particular. All right, I think with this, it brings us to the end of our meeting for this week. As always, lots of follow-up notes to come. You can always watch the meeting recording back if you need it. And I think I'm actually going to open up a poll in Slack about what we want to do with the potential for 2 meetings or different meeting times each week, et cetera. So you guys can all vote, which everyone likes to do usually. So with that, thank you all so much for joining us today and for all of the great conversation. Special thanks to Raul for joining us, and I will see all of you in 2 weeks.
Bye, everyone. Happy New Year.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.